Okay, so this is the second video of my safety video to be able to kind of prepare you for the safety exam in Mr. Olson's woodshop class. We are still on the general safety instructions page. We are now going to move all the way down to number 13. We skipped a couple, 11 and 12 I didn't do. So we're moving on to 13. Any dangers in the shop? I should explain some of the things that I'm not covering on here because they're repetitive and they go over and over and over the same material. I'm just going to try to make sure I cover everything the first time rather than having to repeat myself in an effort to try to make this video shorter. Number 13, any dangerous condition in the shop should be reported to the instructor. If you're aware of anything that's dangerous going on in this classroom, and that could be a machine that is not quite working right, it could be water spilled on the floor or some sawdust on the floor that's making the floor slippery, or it could be a student that is upset that day because their cat died or their girlfriend broke up with them. It could be somebody who is under the influence of something that they shouldn't be under the influence of and therefore not being particularly safe. It could be somebody who's just ignoring some sort of safety rule. And if you're aware of anything that's dangerous in this classroom, please tell me about that. It's like half of my preoccupation every day as I'm walking around in class, just trying to make sure that everybody is being safe. So if you're aware of something that's not safe, you've got to tell me about it. Just let me know, okay? There are some situations where you could just go to the person and say, hey, you know what, you're not supposed to be doing it that way. And maybe they'll stop, and if so, then that's great. You know, it ended, that's fine. But if there's any continuing issue of any sort in this classroom, please let me know about that, okay? Number 14 is about the fire extinguisher. The fire extinguisher is kept over here. Why don't you just walk over here?
Okay.
Well, this is a good thing to notice that I don't have my fire extinguisher in place right now, but the fire extinguisher is going to go right here. I don't remember them giving me a fire extinguisher beginning of this school year, but there will be a fire extinguisher and it's going to be right there on the floor. And what is important is that you know where it is, first of all. Second of all, you're aware of the fact that other staff members on campus know that there's a fire extinguisher right here. I'm actually going to hang it here at some point, but for right now it's right there. Other staff members are aware of it, so in the case of a fire, they may come running over to my class to grab the fire extinguisher, and we need to make sure that it is easily accessible, ready to grab and get going. So don't put your backpacks over here or move chairs over here. You need to leave it completely available and ready to go. It's a good thing I made this video and noticed that was missing, so I can take care of that on Monday. Fire drill is the next one, number 15. Regarding the fire drill, depending on where you are at the moment, that fire drill is somewhat different in terms of the pathway you're going to take across campus. That's true for all of your classes. Each of your teachers should be going over their route and where to go in case of an emergency. But in this classroom, which is the wood shop, we're going to move the entire class out the front door. We're going to wait until everybody's outside, and then we are going to walk around the building here and head out to the field. Once we're at the field, we're going to line up behind our instructors so that the instructors can count you guys and make sure that you're all there. It's very important in a fire drill or any sort of emergency that you stay with your class, because if you go missing, then I need to let the school know that I've lost a student, and they're going to come potentially break down doors trying to find you. And imagine this room is on fire and there are firemen breaking into this room trying to find you, when in reality you went to try to find your little brother or sister on campus or your best friend on campus, and you're completely safe, but people are risking their lives to try to save you in here. So just try to make sure that you stay with your class. Actually, you must stay with your class during all sorts of emergencies or fire drills and such like that. Okay? Number 16 talks about gloves. We don't wear gloves in the classroom. You may think that's odd because you don't want to get a splinter in your hand. But gloves are basically an extension of your hand, and therefore the glove sticks out a little bit further than your fingers most likely. So when you reach out to do something, the glove may get caught in the machine, and then it would pull your hand in the machine. Just as a general rule, you're not going to find anybody wearing gloves in any sort of manufacturing facility or wood shop or any sort of place like this, because people don't want to have their fingers pulled into machines. So we don't wear gloves. Number 17 is definitely on the test. That is where we're talking about And this goes for at home and at the shop and everywhere in life. You don't want to plug things in or out of the wall while being wet. So wet hands and so forth are dangerous. Also, when you're in the bathroom and such, be careful about plugging things in. You want to make sure your hands are completely dry when you're plugging things into a wall. Flipping over to the next side of this thing, number 19. It is the duty of every student to stay away from the operator of the machine in order not to distract them or startle them. The power machines over there, typically, I think maybe they all have an area around the floor with caution tape. It's a black and yellow kind of striped tape on the floor. That's kind of the safety zone. It means that only the operator of the machine should be in that safety zone at any given time. When the machine is on, only the operator should be there. It is possible that you could have an assistant there, but you're not allowed to have an assistant unless I have personally given you that assistant. If you come to me and say, Mr. Olson, can I get some help with this machine? I'm going to find the appropriate student to go help you. And it's not likely, in fact, it's very unlikely that it's going to be your good friend or your good buddy, because I don't want you to be hanging out with somebody while you're working on a machine. I want you to go in, get your work done, focus on it, do a really good job, keep yourself safe, and get it done, and then get out of there so somebody else can use the machine. So I don't really want you working with somebody that you're likely to be hanging out with or chatting, somebody who's going to sit there and watch you work because they just kind of enjoy watching you work. I want instead to send over one of my advanced students or somebody that I really think has developed some sort of skill on that machine to go help you. And that person is likely to go over there and help you, give you advice, make sure you know what you're doing, and then they're going to leave so that you can get your work done. So I don't want people distracted while they're working on a machine. So only the operator of the machine in the safety zone. Okay. Number 20. Says any student who finds a hand tool or machine that has been broken, ... If you find any machine that's damaged in any way whatsoever, you need to tell me about that for multiple reasons. One is it could be dangerous because of what's going on with it. Something's not right. It's making a weird sound, or just something is off about the machine. It's not acting how it's supposed to be acting. You need to tell me about that, because it could be a hazardous situation where maybe the machine might come apart and that could cause a problem. But it could also be a situation where like maybe a screw is loose or something. And if I know about it, I can tighten up that screw and we're all set and good. And if I don't know about it, maybe that screw is going to come out, land on the floor, get swept up at the end of the day. And now we've got a machine that we can't use for who knows how long because we're missing parts. Okay, I have a 3D printer that's not working right now because it got damaged at the end of last year, and it's going to take a while to get those parts, and I'm going to have to go online and look at videos on how to repair the machine. It takes a long time. So sometimes when a machine goes down, it's a big deal and it takes a long time. So I need to know about anything that's going on with these machines, any sort of damage or any problems. You need to let me know about that. Okay, we're skipping 21 because we already covered that, and 22 we're going to skip. 23 we've already talked about. Actually, number 23, 24, and 25 are all basically about the same thing. It's about what do you need to do before you're allowed to use a machine, is what 23, 24, and 25 are all about. First of all, you have to ask me before you use any machine that's powered, meaning if it's plugged into the wall, you need to ask me about it, or basically if it's electrically powered. So that includes like hand tools, like a cordless drill, or anything that's plugged into a wall, anything that's requiring electricity to work. You have to get permission to use it every time you use it. So, Mr. Olson, can I use the orange sander? Mr. Olson, can I use the tape sander? Mr. Olson, can I use the drill press? These are all things you would say to me before you use these tools. Okay, that gives me an opportunity to be able to say, actually that machine is already being used by somebody else, or that machine is not working right, or I need to get over and do something, or there's a lot of reasons why I might say no. I might say no because I don't think you've passed the correct testing for that machine as well. The power tools in the classroom are each going to have their individual test later on in the semester. And unless you've taken that test and demonstrated to me with an operational test, on your safety exam, it's called a written and operational test you have to have taken in order to be able to use a machine. So you have to have completed the written test. You also need to have done an operational test, which basically means that you've shown me that you know how to use the machine before you're able to use the machine. So you have to have my permission, you have to pass the written test, you have to pass the operational test before you're able to use any machine in the shop, any powered machine in the shop. Okay, 26 is something I just talked about. It's the machine safety zone. It's basically talking about the area on the floor that only the operator of the machine should be in that area. Number 27 talks about the fact that you don't turn machines on or off for other people. Meaning if you're using the machine, you should be the only person who turns it on. You should be the only person who turns it off. You shouldn't have somebody standing next to you who goes, oh, I'll turn that on for you. What I foresee in my head is you're standing in front of a sander and you're like, okay, I think I've got all my stuff. I've got my board. I'm ready to go. I know exactly what I'm doing. Okay, I'm ready to go. Somebody turns the machine on for you just as you go, oh, wait, I need to do something else. You turn, you stick your hand in the machine. Somebody gets hurt. Don't turn machines on or off for other people. Only the operator of the machine should be turning machines on and off. That was 27. We're going to skip 28 because that's already pretty much been covered. 29's been covered. We're moving on to 30. Machines need to come to a dead stop before you adjust them, clean them, leave them, pretty much do anything. You go up to a machine, you turn it on, you use it. When you're done with it, you turn it off, you wait, let it come to a complete stop, and then you walk away from the machine. You don't try to adjust the tables or anything while it's moving. You don't do anything while it's moving. And let me show you why that's important. I brought a sander over for this. I turn this thing on, I turn it off, and it takes a few seconds to stop. Okay, there's a sander over there that takes about 12 seconds to stop. My concern is that you turn it off and walk away, somebody else jumps in because they're in a hurry to get to the machine and they don't realize it's still moving and they hurt themselves. Okay? This particular machine, you don't want to, if your wood is encircling this thing right here, you don't want to remove your wood until the machine comes to a complete stop because it could bind and grab a hold of your wood. There's a lot of reasons why you don't try to remove your work or do any adjustments or try to clean it or do anything while it's moving. You just let it stop and then you can go ahead and walk away or make adjustments or change things or do whatever you need to do. 31 is about safety guards. Some of these machines have safety guards, and if the machine has a guard in place, then you need to make sure you leave that guard. You don't remove any of the safety equipment or safety guides without talking to me about it. Sometimes we have to remove various different safety equipment in order to be able to do certain cuts or certain maneuvers that we might need to do. But those guards are there to protect you, so you should not be removing them unless you've talked to me about it, in which case I'm probably going to be over there working with you. If I ever sense any sort of concern where you are in any sort of danger, I'm more likely going to be there with you to make sure that you're not in danger. This is mostly a case with the advanced students because sometimes they use more dangerous tools. The Wood 1 students don't really use tools that are going to hurt them very badly. Wood 2 students sometimes use rather powerful machines, so I generally stand with them the whole time until such time as I'm really confident in their abilities to be able to handle that machine, because I've seen them use it so much that I'm confident in their abilities to be safe. 32 is talking about wood that you receive. And the wood that you receive from me typically is going to be brand new, fresh wood that I bought at Moore Newton, which is the place I've typically been buying wood these days out in San Leandro. And it talks about the wood being free from things that might damage the machines or hurt you. We're talking about staples, we're talking about nails, we're talking about paint, we're talking about dirt and rocks. We're also talking about knots. A knot, which I'm going to need to grab something for. That's something I didn't think of. Although I think I can grab something here. There we go. There we go. Beautiful. That is a knot. It's basically where a branch was coming into this board or this tree. The thing is, if this board gets wet, it swells. And then it dries out, it shrinks, it swells, it shrinks, it swells, it shrinks if it's been getting wet and dry. And sometimes this knot will end up breaking loose because it's swelling in a different way than this is. And so sometimes this will get loose. And if you have a loose knot with some of the power machines, those knots could come flying back at you. This is really just a case for some Wood 2 students because the tools that I'm talking about that could actually throw a knot are not tools that typical Wood 1 student is going to be using. But it is on the test that you need to keep an eye to make sure there are no loose knots in your board if you're working on machines. the nails, the paint, the rocks, the dirt. Paint is bad because it'll clog up the sanders, kind of ruin the sandpaper. These are things you need to keep an eye out, but typically the wood that you're going to get from me is going to be free of all these things. Nails and staples aren't going to be around very much unless somebody brings in some sort of piece of furniture that needs to be fixed, or we try to deconstruct something because it's got a bunch of useful wood, which is not common around here. We typically just work with brand new wood. 33 talks about how quickly to feed a board into a machine. If you're cutting something with a board, there is kind of an ideal speed to work the machine, the tool into the wood into the machine. And the key words you're looking for is you want to feed the wood into the machine only as fast as the machine is designed without forcing the machine to do its work. For an example of that one, I have a sander over here, and it's going to be kind of loud, so this is I'm not pushing on it at all. I'm letting it do its work, but if I push down, you can hear that the machine is struggling to move because I'm forcing the machine to try to work harder, and I'm causing the machine to slow down, which is not dangerous when we're talking about the little pad sander, but it is potentially dangerous when we're talking about other tools. Honestly, this is more of a concern of breaking blades on the scroll saw more than anything else. There are potential hazards around the room if you try to force things too hard. With the tape sander, maybe if you push too hard, you could maybe you could snap the tape. But what you're looking for on the test is that you want to feed the machine only as fast as the machine is designed to cut, without forcing the machine to overwork itself or do things. If you hear the machine make the sound changes on the machine, you're probably overworking the machine. The machine should be able to work efficiently and do its job just the way it was designed to do. Okay, we're going to skip all the way down to 36. A machine operator. Okay, I talked about that one already. You're not allowed to have an assistant unless you've talked to me and I've assigned that assistant to you. We talked about that a lot. Okay, number 37 talks about not touching any moving part of a portable power tool unless it's off. We're talking about a blade. This to me in my head, I think this one, because this one is talking about like a router or a drill bit or maybe a jigsaw blade. These are blades that you're putting into a machine that is a powered machine, and you're at your table and you're putting a blade into it and it's plugged in, and somebody bumps the switch and it turns on while you're trying to put a blade in. This is a ridiculously uncommon thing in my classroom because we don't use a lot of only advanced students are using routers, and those I can't think of the last time that somebody was using a router in this classroom where I wasn't standing right there with them, watching them and working with them. Jigsaws are ridiculously uncommon. I think maybe once in the last few years that somebody really used a jigsaw, but even a jigsaw wouldn't really hurt you that badly if it accidentally came on while you're putting in a blade, but you could. But it is true that if you're working with a hand tool, a power tool at your desk, you should avoid having your hand on the cutter while it's plugged in, because it could accidentally turn on and then you could cut your hand. But this is a very, very uncommon situation, but it is on the test, so I'm going to make sure I cover that. So you would want to completely unplug the machine. This is actually true in life though. If you're trying to fix some sort of electronics at home, you always unplug it first because you don't want to get electrocuted. It's the same concept. Like if you're repairing your television, step one, you unplug the television because you don't want to cause some sort of damage because it came on while it was while you're working on it. Okay, we're going to end the second video there, and we'll move on to the third video. In the third video, we're going to go over hand tool safety rules. Thank you.